is time now for the week that was, when we take a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week. And we start with a story from Nigeria, where the federal government has now ordered the immediate closure of 41 federal unity colleges over the jump in security concerns we've seen in just a matter of days. The order coming in a new statement put out on November 21st, straight from the Federal Ministry of Education. According to the document, the Minister of Education himself, Tunji Alausa, approved the shutdown after what he called recent security challenges in part of the country and the need to prevent breaches. This means that all principals of affected schools must enforce the closure ASAP. The 41 schools are spread out in states across the Northwest, Northeast, North Central, and parts of the southern part of Nigeria. Interesting development there, Anieze. The Minister of Education, finally wading in, given the horrible week, very horrendous week that we've been through, in terms of insecurity in several parts of Nigeria, Borno, Kwara, Niger State, Zamfara, Yobe, I believe, with the kidnappings that has now gone all of a sudden, up. And I think that, somehow we should commend him to at least, coming in to say that let's safeguard, the lives of our young ones and their teachers, given that what happened in Niger State also included, the principal being killed, a teacher being abducted, etc. And of course, what the Niger State government also said about the fact that, we want them, not to resume schooling, but they didn't listen to us. So here is Ms. Alausa saying that, okay, it is better to at least identify a few schools, particularly, colleges that might be at risk, and then let the students just go home, for now. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, yes, it's definitely a step to protect students, protect staff and workers of these schools who might be affected. But what are the contingency plans and how long will this last?
How long?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fact that we talk about this all the time, schools and universities in Nigeria close and students are the ones who suffer the most. Yeah. They fall back in terms of what they are learning vis-a-vis other students around the world. And what does that do for the state of our education system as a whole? Have these schools put in place plans for home learning? Yeah. Are teachers going to be teaching them virtually so that they stay up to date with what's going on? I just worry about the repercussions of something like this.
Me too.
And, are we basically waiting for insecurity to be solved in Nigeria before these schools reopen? That's
this is something that we've been fighting since 2009.
Exactly.
15, 16 years now.
Exactly.
And, it doesn't look as if there is a major headway that everybody can comment. But now if you say, okay, go home, okay, temporarily it's a kind of relief, but then for how long will it last? Can we be certain that when they return, nothing will happen? At what point will the federal government be able to say confidently, to the parents to say that, your wards are safe now to return to school? There won't be issues of kidnapping, there won't be insecurity, and that they will learn in an ideal environment.
Absolutely.
We don't know how long that will take, but Ms. Alausa should probably do more than just issue a press release and speak to the parents, speak to the nation, the same way that we expect the authorities when it comes to insecurity to also speak directly to the nation so that you can reassure people that, yes, we can defend what is going on, that it is not a genocide, it is not this and that, but then as it concerns people, who is speaking directly to Nigerians?
Absolutely. Very important questions that we'll be following. Let's take our next story with the Federal High Court in Abuja now sentencing the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra to life imprisonment after his conviction on multiple counts of terrorism. Justice Omotosho gave the verdict in one of Nigeria's most politically charged trials yet. Arise correspondent Godfrey Eshiemoge has details for us.
What began as a quiet day in court quickly descended into commotion. Kanu became unruly after Justice James Omotosho dismissed 3 of his motions, including one seeking to halt the proceedings. His outburst prompted the judge to order his removal from the courtroom. On the issue of Kanu's extraordinary rendition from Kenya, Justice Omotosho ruled that while the process may have been unlawful, it does not strip the court of jurisdiction. He added that the defendant's only remedy was monetary damages, as compensation already awarded by Kenyan authorities. The court described Kanu as an international terrorist, citing threats to attack foreign missions and his role in orchestrating violence against security operatives in the southeast. In handing down the sentence, Justice Omotosho noted that the law prescribes the death penalty for terrorism offenses, but said he chose to show mercy, citing his Christian faith. He ordered that Kanu be held in protective custody outside Kuje prison and directed that the seized radio transmitter be forfeited to the federal government. Meanwhile, Kanu's supporters have vowed to appeal the verdict.
It will not stand. Nobody is going to trample on me. Nobody is going to trample on Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu is not a terrorist. He's a man that was pursuing change. To pursue a separate nation of yours is not a crime. So in Nigeria today, if somebody says, don't be silly, you get convicted. Nnamdi Kanu may broadcast, and so what? And you convict him for terrorism for mere words in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. What kind of precedent is being laid? So from here, we are heading to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal is the only court in this country, or the next court in this country, that sits as a jury.
Justice has been done. And therefore, Nigerians must, one way or the other, appreciate the judiciary. You remember just last Monday, the president was saying, at any time when Nigeria is in a big trouble or fix, judiciary has always come to the aid to salvage Nigeria. Again, the judiciary has salvaged Nigeria from the claws, from the oppression of the proscribed IPOB. The courts has also pronounced death sentence on Eastern Security Network, which was the military wing of IPOB. Today, God has brought an end to injustice, oppression, suffered by our brothers and sisters of the eastern states of Nigeria. They will not be able to sleep with their two eyes closed.
The judgment marks the climax of a decade-long trial. But with an appeal looming, the case is far from over. Godfrey Eshemoge, Arise News.
So, Steve, what stood out to me in this story is just how much drama there has been around this case. I think that it's a story that's essentially been building for the last 10 years, from his initial arrest to the protests that followed, his disappearance, his reappearance in Kenya, his extradition back to Nigeria. This is a case that has been so closely followed by the entire country. And I think that it's really kind of brought him to the fore as one of the main modern opposition voices to the federal government. And what's interesting is the fact that this was live streamed. So kind of continuing with that drama, it was something that a lot of people were following. And as we just saw in that story package, there were people that were for this decision, and then there were people that were against. But either way, I think that the verdict is coming at such an interesting time when we're having these conversations around insecurity, religion. This one has to do with tribe and, your regional affiliation. Even though the stories seem different, I would argue that they still somewhat fall under the same umbrella, which is this question of national identity. How do we as Nigerians see ourselves, whether it has to do with our tribe, whether it has to do with our religion, whether it has to do with our our regional affiliation as well. So I think that just the way that it's been followed throughout the years, and finally to get this verdict, I mean, people have been reacting so much online as well. It feels like one of those cases like the O.J. Simpson case or a Johnny Depp case that, the entire country is following.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, it is expected, it is unarguably one of the most politically charged trials, ever in Nigeria. And like you rightly observed, it has taken, as much as 10 years, to get to this point. Personally, I feel that the juncture where we are now, we could have arrived there 6, 7, 8 years ago. But here we are. There's been delay. There were delays here and there. But of course, the landmark judgment has come. You mentioned that, this is about national identity and things like that. Absolutely, because at the heart of this very thing is the agitation for some form of identity leading to a demand for nationhood for the people that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu represents. But then, when you hear the lawyer, one of the lawyers to Nnamdi Kanu saying that how could you convict anybody on the basis of a mere utterance? But utterances, words are powerful. In my part of Nigeria, where I come from, we do say that that an utterance is like an egg. Once it drops and scatters, it cannot become a whole again. And therefore, the things that we utter, advertently or inadvertently, they do carry a lot of weight, particularly if they eventually lead to violence, and loss of lives and destructions and things like that. And I think that part of what Justice Omotosho arrived at is to say that, the reason why you have been convicted is based on the evidence of the things that you said and what the people who believed in what you said did to their own clan. People will say that, 99% of those who were affected by the things that he said and the things that he ordered, are people from his own part. But of course, like you said, opinions will be divided. But I don't think that this is, for me, it is not to say, is this justified? Because we are dealing with terror. We're dealing with seditious issues. We're dealing with loss of lives, innocent human lives. There are a number of people that we can recall, and then your body will cringe that, all these things actually happen because of certain utterances that were, that were given. But of course, this is not or should not be the end of the case. I believe, of course, that the case will proceed to appeal if, of course, the government does not cross appeal. But of course, even if it proceeds to appeal, the fact that it can still get to the Supreme Court is still there. Whatever happens, I think part of the political solution that people have been agitating for would be that at what point can the president, and commander-in-chief come in to show clemency if it turns out that he is actually truly guilty of the things that he's been accused of. We've seen that the president has exercised, such a power through the committee that is charged to, to recommend those who deserve clemency for him. If it turns out ultimately, that is as guilty as charged, maybe part of the political solution would be that, okay, there are other instances in the north, in the Niger Delta, even in Yoruba land, of people who have made similar claims, maybe not at the same level, that have either been ignored or have been pardoned. But of course, at the end of the day, the question will still remain that how do we deal with each other? How do we relate with each other? Our differences, how can they become, how can we look at unity in diversity, the thing that we have always been preaching. But when we also think about lives that have been lost, Simon Ekpa was convicted, all the way, in Finland, right. And people will say that maybe he didn't even do a fraction of what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been accused of. But hey, as I said, this is just one of the first steps of the trial. It will go to appeal, it might get to the Supreme Court, and then we can hope that ultimately the president will, do something. Hopefully, I'm not saying that is what will happen, but let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. All right, and finally, on the week that was, President Trump welcomed Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to the White House, saying the Crown Prince knew nothing about the 2018 killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. His position contrasts with the 2021 U.S. intelligence assessment that said the Crown Prince approved the operation. Bin Salman described the killing as painful and insisted Saudi Arabia took the right investigative steps. Both leaders shifted their talks towards investment, defense cooperation, and long-term partnerships, even as Khashoggi's widow renewed her call for an apology and justice.
Mr. President, is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office.
Who are you with?
Why should Americans trust you?
Who are you with?
And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the
But the
worst.
question is
One of the
legitimate,
worst
sir.
in the business. But I'll answer your question.
Thank you.
I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot. And anything they've done has been very good. That's what we've done. We've built a tremendous business for a long time. I've been very successful. I decided to leave that success behind and make America very successful. And I've made America more successful by far than it ever was, and that it ever could have been no matter who was president. There would be nobody bringing in $21 trillion, that I can tell you right now. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
Okay, just yes, Mr. President, if you allow me to answer. I feel painful about families of 9/11 in America, but we have to focus on reality. Reality based on CIA documents and based on a lot of documents that Osama bin Laden used Saudi people at that event for one main purpose, is to destroy this relation, to destroy the American-Saudi relation. That's the purpose of 9/11. So whoever buying that means they are helping Osama bin Laden's purpose of destroying this relation. He knows that strong relation between America and Saudi Arabia is bad for extremism, it's bad for terrorism. And we have to approve him wrong and to build our relation, continue developing our relation. It's critical in the safety of the world. It's critical against extremism and terrorism. About the journalists, it's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for, no real purpose or nothing illegal way, and it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc., in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that, and it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
Shortly after absolving Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of responsibility for Jamal Khashoggi's murder, Trump later announced that he was designating Saudi Arabia as a major non-NATO ally. The two sides then announced agreements on arms sales, on civil nuclear cooperation, AI, and critical minerals. U.S. intelligence agencies had concluded that bin Salman approved the capture or killing of Khashoggi. However, the Crown Prince denied that he ordered the operation, but he acknowledged responsibility as the kingdom's de facto leader. Trump also told reporters, with bin Salman sitting beside him, a lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about, as you heard in that clip. Things happened, but he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. Bin Salman had said that it was painful to hear about Khashoggi's death, but that his government did all the right steps of investigation. And I think this story, what stands out to me is just the rebrand, the scale of rebrand that Saudi Arabia has had in the last few years. So I think it was 2016 when the Crown Prince and his father, the King, decided on something that they called the Vision 2030. And they essentially said, we are going to overhaul the entire country from tourism, sports, our economy, our religious rules as well. And I think that that image that we were showing of Mohammed bin Salman sitting in the White House with President Donald Trump, announcing these deals, announcing these new partnerships, it shows how far a country can go if it actually sets its mind on something. But another lesson that stands out to me here is that you can't just sweep things under the rug either. The fact that ABC News correspondent Mary Bruce called out that killing of the Washington Post columnist, because that was such a big story when it happened.
Yeah.
This was someone's life. He was a dissenting voice, critical of the Saudi government. And when that story came out, it was such a big deal. And I remember, just how isolated Saudi Arabia had seemed. And I think this rebranding or refreshing of their public image has clearly yielded a lot, right?
I mean, I totally agree with you. If anybody was looking for yet another reason why they think that President Trump hardly ever thinks through what he says, this, is just another example of his anyhowness, as we do say in Nigeria. And we should be concerned, we should be worried, given that the life that is at stake, that was at stake, that was, cut short, belongs to our trade. Like you said, Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist, a columnist, in America, and to have been cut down, in a brutal manner like that, with American intelligence saying that every finger point towards the crown prince, and for the president, to now say that no, I mean, it became almost like the defender-in-chief of the Saudi crown prince. I don't think that was tidy. I don't think that it was fair to the widow and the family of the slain, Khashoggi. I also don't think that that's the way to play diplomacy. It looks to me like any Middle Eastern country or any rich country whatsoever that is flashing investments and big money towards Trump's America, the president not only welcomes, it becomes like your PR machine.
It's Trump's diplomacy, his kind of diplomacy.
Trump, absolutely. And for justifiable reasons, people should be worried. But again, we've got 3+ more years of Trump to deal with. And what can we say? The same man who welcomes the Syrian president is the same person who is saying about Nigeria, deal with terrorists, deal with this, deal with that. But then when we see what you're doing with Saudi Arabia, with Syria, we just have to think that, may God save us from Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
All right, that's all on the week that was today.